Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vishnu Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shivasati Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama It's described in our scriptures, Shastra, that the Lord incarnates in many different avatars. Just like you go to the Durban beach, you cannot count the number of waves. So the incarnations of God are also unlimited. And we only know a few of them, literally. Lord Ramachandra, Vraha, and this particular incarnation, Lord Nrisimha, is very popular. Lord Nrisimha, half lion and half man. So our spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, introduced the worship of Lord Nrisimha to the West. Before then, in the Kali Yuga, nothing. Actually, there was no devotion in the West, just in India. Of course, Bharat. So I'm going to read from Prabhupada Nectar by His Holiness Satsrup Goswami, and this is a pastime regarding the prayers of Lord Nrisimha. So this is volume 3, Little Drops of Nectar. It's about our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. In the days when there was no Rath Yatra held in Los Angeles, the devotees used to travel en masse to San Francisco to attend the Rath Yatra. So Prabhupada introduced Rath Yatra in San Francisco in 1967. One morning, Prabhupada, this is Satsrup. One morning, when Prabhupada came down to the temple at his usual time, there was only a handful of devotees remaining, since most of them had already gone to San Francisco. Srila Prabhupada was to later leave that day by plane. Earlier that morning, someone had thrown a pipe bomb into the temple room through the back door. The bomb had exploded, shaken the building, and a few devotees had been cut with small pieces of shrapnel. Prabhupada sat on the Vyasasan, and he said he was now going to teach them a new mantra. He then taught the devotees the Nrisimha mantra, beginning with the words Namaste Narasimhaya. He went over the words with them several times, and then they sang it together. Prabhupada remarked on this occasion that as his movement was now growing, the demons were becoming more envious. He said that as the Krishna consciousness movement grew, there would be attacks, but the devotees should not be afraid and should not stop from pushing on. They should chant these mantras to Lord Nrsimhadev. Lord Nrsimhadev will always protect us, said Prabhupada. Prabhupada also approved that these mantras be sent out to all his ISKCON centers for the devotees to chant. So Prabhupada said that Lord Nrsimhadev will always protect you. So on this occasion we also pray to Lord Nrsimhadev for his protection, that he can protect us individually, but also our family members. Obviously we're attached to a certain degree to our husband and children and grandchildren, parents. But Lord Nrsimhadev mentioned that due to Prahlad's devotion, Trisapta, the word Trisapta, Trisapta means three times Sapta, 7. 21 generations of family members become purified when you become a devotee of the Lord. So that means 21 generations of your family members. So you might think, well, my father, my grandfather, my great-great-grandfather. What about your great-great-great-grandfather? Did you ever meet him? Did you ever meet her? Now you go back 21 generations. But not only in this lifetime, but you were living in a last lifetime. Maybe not in South Africa, maybe in India. Now what about that family? They also become purified. And Prabhupada has written in the Bhagavad Gita, hundreds and thousands of family predecessors, hundreds and thousands become purified. So this devotion to Lord Krishna, Lord Ram, Lord Nrsimhadev, is extremely powerful, extremely powerful. And the best mantra is the Hare Krishna Maha mantra, which, as you know, is Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In the Dwapara Yuga, which is a previous age, we're living now in the Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga means the age of hypocrisy, the age of cheating, the age of mismanagement. Would you agree? Countries are being mismanaged, there's cheating going on, conflicts everywhere. So prior to Kali Yuga was Dwapara Yuga. And in the Dwapara Yuga, the great saint Narada Muni, he's one of our spiritual masters, Narada Muni approached Lord Brahma. Now Lord Brahma is his father. Brahma is demigod, and we respect him. And he is the original Acharya in our particular line. This Hare Krishna movement is coming in the Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya. It's not some recent concoction. It's not something that Prabhupada made up 50 years ago in America. It goes back thousands and thousands of years. So we are connecting to the Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya. So Narada Muni asked Lord Brahma, in the Kali Yuga, how will the living beings and animals be delivered? Because it's very materialistic time. It's a very awkward time. And Lord Brahma said, simply by chanting the names of God. And then Narada Muni asked, which names of God? And then Lord Brahma said, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. And this is in the Kali Santana Upanishad. Iti Soda Saksham Nama Kali Kamasa Nasinam. Nasina means the destroyer of the sinful effects, Kali, of Kali, Kali Kamasa. And if you read the Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Sama Veda, the Rig Veda, the Yatata Veda, the Upanishads, you will not find a more powerful process. Sava Vedeshu Dristate. You will not find anything more powerful than the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So obviously we encourage all of you to chant the Maha Mantra. And the worship of Krishna also includes the worship of Nrisimha. But we can also worship Nrisimha separately. No harm. So Lord Nrisimha is known as Lakshmi Nrisimha, and Lord Nrisimha resides in Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is the spiritual world. It's above this material world, and it's way, way above Phoenix. Or Amshlanga, or believe it or not, Palito Bay. You have to go further up north to the Himalayas and then Vaikuntha. So Lord Nrisimha resides in the Vaikuntha planets. Now, we cannot approach God directly. You can't God Ram, Nrisimha, Krishna. You cannot obtain his darshan, his kripa, directly. It's only a devotee that will give you the Lord. So the most dearest devotee of Lord Nrisimha is Prahlada. So the way we approach Lord Nrisimha is by first recognizing, worshipping Prahlada. The same would go for Lord Ram. We can't approach Ram directly, but through Sita, through Hanuman, and there are many other associates, Sugriva, etc. So we should first recognize Prahlada Maharaj. So he's a great devotee. He appeared, his father was Hiranyakashipu. So you might ask, how come Prahlada was born into a demon family? Demoniac. Hiranyakashipu, very demoniac. So this is not his karma. This is due to Lord Nrisimha's personal arrangement, Krishna's personal arrangement. And the example is that Prahlada, although he was faced with so many atrocities, his father tried to kill him, his father tried to poison him, he was thrown off a hill, put in a vat of boiling oil. Still, he remained steadfast in his devotion to Nrisimha. And he quoted this very famous verse that Srila Prabhupada often quotes: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vishnu Padasevanam, Archanam, Dasya Satni Vedanam. There are 9 processes in devotional service: Shravanam, to hear; Kirtanam, to chant; Smaranam, to remember. So Prahlada is particularly known for remembering, Smaranam. So you can imagine people are coming to kill you, but you are peacefully remembering the lotus feet of God. That's not an easy thing to do. So Prahlada is known for his smaranam, remembrance of the Supreme Lord. And his Istadev, everyone has an Istadev, but at our lower stage, we're not so advanced. We haven't really understood who our Istadev is. Istadev means worshipable Lord. So it's very obvious, Prahlada's worshipable Lord is who? Shingadev, not Lord Ram, not Lord Narayan, and not even Krishna. You offer him entrance into Vrindavan, and Prahlada will very respectfully decline. He is interested in Shingadev's lotus feet. And then we could use the same example with Hanuman. Who is Hanuman fixed on? Ramchandra. And then we could use another example, the gopis, the residents of Vrindavan, the cowherd boys, or Mother Yasoda. Who are they fixed on? It's not Lord Narayan, and it's not Nrsimha, although they respect deeply. They respect, but their love flows towards Krishna. And depending on whether you are Mother Yasoda, following in her footsteps, or cowherd boys, or gopis, your meditation on Krishna will be according to his age. For instance, Mother Yasoda, she's meditating on Krishna, but what age would Krishna be? Below 5 years old, Kumara. Then the cowherd boy is meditating on Krishna, but as cowherd boy, that's between 5 and 10. But the young gopis, they're meditating on Krishna as a Cupid, Dira Lalita, youth, from 10 to 15. So even your Istadev may be Krishna, but it may, according to your relationship, there's different ages of Krishna. Of course, Krishna's eternal. So he's eternally a young baby, eternally a youth, and eternally a boy. So I wanted to read some verses which just explain to you a little bit about Prahlada's meditation. Now, Prahlada is not a conditioned soul. He's liberated. We're not liberated. But we're going in that direction. If we continue to chant Krishna's holy name and take prasadam and visit sadhu sangha like this temple, New Jagannath Puri, and go on parikram to India, Vrindavan, Mayapur, we're on the right path, definitely. So these are some very nice verses. Canto 7, chapter 4, describing Prahlada Maharaj's mood. So, text 37. From the very beginning of Prahlada's childhood, he was uninterested in childish playthings. He gave them up and remained silent and dull, being fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Since his mind was always affected by Krishna consciousness, he could not understand how the world goes on, being fully absorbed in the activities of sense gratification. So we can't imitate this. When a 4 or 5 year old child starts meditating on Krishna, their intelligence is not even developed. They've only just learned how to talk and walk. So this is spontaneous or natural. Text 38. Prahlada Maharaj was always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, thus being always embraced by the Lord. He did not know how his bodily necessities, such as sitting, walking, eating, or lying down, or drinking and talking, were being automatically performed. So this is real samadhi. Samadhi. Sama, S-A-M-A, means equal to your worshipful Lord. We're never equal to God, but on that same platform, on that same level, it's called samadhi. So Prahlad, he was always meditating. Now again, this smaranam, he was always remembering his worshipful Lord, Nrisimha. Text number 39. Because of advancement in Krishna consciousness, he sometimes cried, he sometimes laughed, sometimes expressed jubilation, and sometimes sang loudly. So we have emotions, and sometimes you laugh, and sometimes you also cry. You go to the crematorium, and there is crying. And sometimes you laugh. You see some hilarious comedy. Even our Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, explained sometimes when he was young, he would see a Charlie Chaplin film. You know Charlie Chaplin. So you laugh. Prabhupada was on the aircraft, and in those days they didn't have the screen behind the seat. There was a screen in front. And it was a Charlie Chaplin film. And Prabhupada was with his disciples, and Prabhupada started giggling. And the disciples, they didn't know what to do. They didn't know whether to laugh as well, because they thought it was Maya, illusionary or something. So, Charlie Chaplin. So we have these emotions, sometimes depressed, sometimes elated, sometimes happy, sometimes crying, sometimes jubilant, sometimes afraid, sometimes condescending, sometimes a little bit proud. So all of these emotions are there in the spiritual world. So when a great devotee like Prahlad exhibits them, it's not due to the influence of the three modes. But when we experience different emotions, being on a lower stage is due to the three modes of nature. Like the mode of ignorance, you become depressed, and then you have suicidal thoughts even. So on the advanced stage, these emotions are all very pure. Srila Prabhupada, I listened to his talks often, especially in South Africa when he came, 1975. And I think Prabhupada's his most favorite word was what? Rascals. Rascals. He said this word, rascals, thousands and thousands of times. So he was of course talking about the atheists and those that follow Darwin's theory. But really, he used that word a lot. Rascal, rascal, rascal. So then I read a pastime where Prabhupada is talking to my godbrother, Brahmatirtha. There's a book called Perfect Questions and Perfect Answers. So it's an interview with Brahmatirtha in 1972, where the disciple, Brahmatirtha Prabhu, he asked questions. And some or other, Prabhupada came up again with the word rascal. So Prabhupada said, yes, there's rascals, but Krishna is also rascal. And then Prabhupada gave the example that he would see Radharani and somehow or other he would cause her to fall on the ground. And then he would quickly kiss her. And Prabhupada laughing, see, he's rascal. But Krishna's rascaldom, Prabhupada said, we worship. When he's the rascal, we worship. But when our next door neighbor, or someone in Phoenix or Durban is a rascal, we condemn them, isn't it? No one likes a rascal. But where did this rascaldom come from? It came from the absolute truth. So it must also exist in Krishna. But we worship it. That rascaldom. Krishna also steals. He steals butter and ghee. He steals the sweets. He'll go into the house of the other bridge buses, and there'll be a baby, and he'll squeeze the baby's leg, so the baby starts crying. So Krishna's also rascal, but we worship that. So that stealing or that rascaldom is worshipable. But when a materialist comes and squeezes us or attacks us or cheats us, then we condemn the person. It's not nice. We can use the same example with Hanuman. Hanuman became very angry when he jumped to Sri Lanka. So anger can also be used in the service of God. Rascaldom, all of these things can be used in the service. So because of advancement in Krishna consciousness, Prahlada sometimes cried, sometimes laughed, sometimes expressed jubilation, and sometimes sang loudly. So these are spiritual emotions. Text 40. Sometimes, upon seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prahlada Maharaj would loudly call in full anxiety. He sometimes lost his shyness in jubilation and began dancing in ecstasy. And sometimes, being absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, that's in Nrisimha, he felt oneness and imitated the pastimes of the Lord. So, Prabhupada says, Prahlada sometimes felt the Lord was far away and therefore called out to him loudly. Then he saw the Lord before him, he became very happy. So we're not so advanced. Lord Nrisimha, he's not going to appear before us at this stage. But as we become more advanced, Premanjana Charta Bhakti Vilochena, when our eyes become tinged with the salve of love, and then the Lord will automatically manifest himself, and we will have his darshan. We will have his darshan. Sometimes, thinking himself one with the Lord, he would imitate the Lord's pastimes. So we were also doing that play. So we were imitating Krishna, Lord Nrisimha's pastimes. There's no harm, as long as you don't think, I am Nrisimhadev, I am God, I am Krishna. And later tonight at midnight, I'll be doing my Rasa Leela over there in the park in Phoenix. You know? And elderly ladies are not welcome. But the younger ones can come, and they can give me their gold and money. So there are many imposters who claim to be God. Text number 41. Sometimes, feeling the touch of the Lord's lotus hands, he became spiritually jubilant and remained silent, his hair standing on end and tears gliding down from his half-closed eyes because of his love for the Lord. Srila Prabhupada's purport. When a devotee feels separation from the Lord, he becomes eager to see where the Lord is, and sometimes when he feels pangs of separation, tears flow from his eyes. As stated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Sikshashtakam prayer, Yugayitam nimisena chakshusha pravashayatam. The words chakshusha pravashayatam refer to tears falling incessantly from the devotee's eyes. So these tears are the price you have to pay to have entrance to the spiritual world. And we have to learn how to cry for the darshan of Lord Nrsimha, Lord Ram, Lord Krishna. Instead, in this material world, we are crying for other things. We're crying when the father dies, the mother dies. Every time I come here to the New Jagannath Puri, we go past the funeral parlors. And all I can say is that every time I come, the hearses get longer and longer. You know, and more fancier. I've heard there's a Rolls Royce hearse. So we're crying when the father dies, the mother dies, the husband dies, the child dies. We even cry when the dog dies. We cry when we don't get enough votes. And they'll be crying at the end of this month. We cry when our football team loses, isn't it? The football team loses and we go on an anger rampage. But the football team wins and we start dancing. I saw this when they had the World Cup, and it was a real, I don't know what countries, but the one country won. And all these fans were jumping up and down and dancing with their hands. And the only thing I could compare it to was a kirtan at Radharanath, the New Jagannath Puri, where devotees also jump up and down and put their hands in the air. So they were doing the same thing. It wasn't like disco dancing. It was literally jumping up and down, just like we do. But they were jumping up and down, and it went on for a long time. 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, because their football team won. Now, how long is that enjoyment going to last? A few hours, a few days? After 1 week, something else has come up. Finished. But in spiritual life, this jubilation is eternal. We've been practicing for you, in order for you to sit here and listen and bow down to Lord Jagannath and to honor the appearance of Lord Nrsimha. It means in your past life, you were also practicing. Now you might say, well, I can't remember. But our remembrance is very feeble. It's very weak. If I had to ask you, what were you doing 6 months ago at this particular time, 8:30 on a Wednesday night, would you remember? We can't remember. You can't even remember when you were young babies. When you were 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old. When does the remembrance start coming? Maybe when you're 5 or 6, you have some slight remembrance. Something when you were 7, maybe when you were 8. So remembrance is a function of the intelligence. So we can't remember our past life. But Shastra, Bhagavad Gita, and Bhagavatam tell us we were living in past. And due to Purva Samskara, Purva means past, practice of spiritual life, impressions, we're now continuing in this lifetime. We are continuing now in this lifetime. So, we want to continue with the spiritual life, become more serious, become more enthusiastic. And days like today, the appearance, Avibhava, Lord Nrisimha is very important to us. And Srila Prabhupada personally introduced the worship of Lord Nrisimha into the ISKCON mission, our Hare Krishna movement. It's not so much emphasized in other Vaishnava groups, but Prabhupada personally, and in order to protect this mission, because this mission is to spread Krishna consciousness, God consciousness all over the world. And a mission means people. Without people, there's no mission. So it's in order to protect the people. So when we surrender to Guru and Gauranga, when we get initiated, our bodies no longer belong to us. It's the property of Guru and Gauranga. So we have to maintain the body in a reasonable way. Health, the right diet, food, etc. So we can use the body to practice spiritual life and to also preach. So this is what Srila Prabhupada wanted us to do. So we humbly pray to Lord Nrisimha, but understanding we can only approach Nrisimha through Prahlada. And then Prahlada Maharaj's representatives. He's one of the 12 Mahajans, and Prabhupada writes he's the most important. And many times Prabhupada would quote from the 7th canto instructions from Prahlada Maharaj. So we humbly follow in the footsteps of Prahlada and his representatives, our Guru Parampara, Srila Bhaktivinoda, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada's representatives. We humbly follow, and we pray to Nrisimha that Nrisimha can remove the demoniac material desires. These material desires are very demoniac, and they can play havoc with the mind. Even when you're practicing spiritual life, Prabhupada writes, sometimes we're interested in material acclaim. What does acclaim mean? It means applaud. It means popularity. It means followers and name and fame. Like I have to also be very careful. I'm sitting on this fancy seat, and you're all sitting on a plastic seat made in China. Imported, especially for you. And see this? It's my glass of water. Now you don't have a glass of water. You see, name and fame. Now, what's this? This is a flower garland. Do you have a flower garland? Nope, but I do. So name and fame can come in spiritual life also. One has to be very cautious and very careful. So Prahlada was a very humble devotee. Another interesting point, he was only 5 years old. So usually you don't think that a 5-year-old could be that advanced. But past, you've got to think past life. Past life. And I can also conclude, one time Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago, we are followers of Lord Chaitanya, he went to visit Srivas Pandit, and Srivas Pandit was chanting the Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra. So the Vishnu Sahasra So the 1,000 names of Vishnu. So sometimes devotees, especially when there is yajna, we chant the 1,000 names of Vishnu. God is unlimited. So he can have unlimited names, like Govinda, Ram, Radharaman, Gopinath, Gopijana, Vallabha. He can have many names, because even a materialist can have many names. Like Mr. Donald Trump. I mean, how many names does he have? You can call him Mr. President, or, sorry, Mr. Former President. Let's get that right. You can call him Donald. His wife calls him probably Donald Baby. He has so many names, you know. So you also have different names. You have nicknames, isn't it? When you're young, you have like a nickname. A nickname. So God has unlimited names, and in these names He's invested His potency. So you chant these names. So Srivas Pandit was chanting the 1,000 names of Vishnu, and he came to the name Nrisimha. And Lord Chaitanya took on the mood. It's called Avesh. Avesh means you put an iron rod into a fire, and that iron rod becomes like the fire, hot, but it's not the fire. So we want to become a Vesh with the pure devotees. So what they have in their mind, what they have in their heart, comes to us. A Vesh. So Lord Chaitanya became a Vesh with Nrisimha, and he took on the characteristics of Nrisimha, and he started growling, and he started lifting his hands up like they were claws, and then he ran out into the streets and threatened the atheists, the non-devotees. 500 years ago also, many non-devotees. So then he came to his senses. In other words, he came back to his original mood of Lord Chaitanya. And he went to Srivas and he says, I think I committed an offense, because to disturb other living beings is offensive. We shouldn't disturb anyone, other living beings. So then Srivas said, no, simply by hearing your name once, Sukrit Ucharitam Yena, Skanda Purana, Sukrit once, by hearing your holy name, the reaction to 10 million sinful reactions are wiped away. 10 million. So this is not an exaggeration. There's one verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I was reading it, Adi Leela, chapter 8. And it says that if you give Koti, 10 million cows in charity on an eclipse, or if you live at the confluence of the Ganges and the Jamuna for millions of years, or if you give a mountain of gold in charity to the Brahmins, it is not even equal to 1/100th the benefit from chanting the name of God. Not even 1/100th. Therefore, the chanting of the name of God is a special gift given to us in this Kali Yuga. So I humbly request that you all chant the holy name of the Lord on a regular basis every day, and also the prayers to Lord Nrisimha. And in this way you'll get some mercy from Jagannath, from Sitaram, from Prahlada Nrisimha, from Radharanath. And by this mercy you'll increase your faith in the holy name and you'll advance. And this is the perfection of your life. This is the perfection, simply to become attached to the holy name of God. Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrisimha Dev ki Jagannath Subhadra Balaram ki jai. Shri Shri Nitai Gaurari ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Our Guru Parambara ki jai. Go Premanandi. So thank you very much. And if you have any comments or questions, I can do my best to try to answer. No? Yes? Let's give her the microphone.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, would you prefer if I stop asking questions?
Her questions are very intelligent, because she's intelligent.
I really liked your class, especially when you told us about how Srila Prabhupada introduced the mantra, the one that Nrisimha pronounced to the West. I didn't know that, and I'll definitely take that home from today's class. My question is, if Prahlad's Ishtadev is Nrisimha, how did he know? Because Nrisimha, as far as my knowledge, only appeared in that specific form when Prahlad prayed and Hiranyakashipu said, well, hey, look at that pillar, is he in that pillar? And he only appeared at that point. So if Prahlad was praying to Nrisimha, was that an internal prayer? Did he know that?
When we talk about material world and material energy, generally there's some chronological order. This happened, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. But in the spiritual world, time, the time factor, it's absent. And it's conspicuous by its absence. But there is a sense of time. It's difficult to understand. For instance, Krishna in the morning, and then Krishna in the afternoon, Madhyana Lila, then Krishna in the evening, Rasa Lila. So there's a sense of time. But actually, the time factor doesn't exist in the spiritual world. The influence of the time factor is that things deteriorate. Would you agree? The clothes you wear deteriorate. Your car deteriorates. Your house. So due to time factor, everything deteriorates. So Prahlad has an eternal relationship with Nrisimha in Vaikuntha. There was no time in the past when it began. It's called Anadi. Anadi means no beginning. But it's very difficult for us to understand something that has no beginning. Even when we think this person, Krishna, is eternal, then we think, well, he must be old. Therefore, he must look like my great-great-grandfather, and he must have a beard, and his skin must be a little wrinkly. So we put a material conception on something spiritual. Radharani is very beautiful. Then we think of some Bollywood or Miss World. But actually, way beyond that. Krishna plays a flute, and we try to think, all right, now I've heard the sound of the flute. I play this new age music, it's a flute. But it is completely different to that. But that's the nearest we can get, because words have a material connotation. There's only so much you can say. Radharani is beautiful. Lord Nrisimha is very beautiful actually. So Prahlad's eternal relationship is with Nrisimhadev. This is just one pastime that took place. I've understood it took place on this planet. I did hear reference that somewhere in Punjab is even the hill or the mountain where Prahlad was thrown off. And of course in South India there's many famous temples of Nrisimhadev, and so we can only pray to Nrisimhadev that he can gradually manifest himself, and he will do it of his own accord. We can't bribe him. We can't force him. You can't force. Bhakti mama bhajananti. When the Lord is pleased with your devotion, he manifests. So it's a gradual thing. So we pray to Nrisimhadev like that, and Prahlad. And it's more important to actually pray to Prahlad. Because we want what Prahlad has. And what does he have? Complete love and faith to the level of praying in Nrisimhadev. Like to ask anything else?
Thank you.
So, there is a question. Good.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question may not be specifically related to tonight's topic in Phoenix. I hope that's okay if I may proceed. I'll take that as a yes or please.
As long as it's not about the elections.
So, Maharaj, I'm pretty new with my Krishna conscious journey, and I've come across where Swami Prabhupada actually says that death is a glorious moment in our lives and we must prepare for it. So I understand that our soul is made up of a subtle body, which is the mind, intelligence, and ego. And I would like you to please help me understand, when we die, if I'm fortunate at the moment of death to remember Lord Krishna and be in Krishna consciousness, how does my soul, which is so minuscule as described by Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita, travel to the higher planets that we cannot see with our material eyes, or even go down to the lower hellish planets?
Yeah, even if you're not able to think of the Lord at the time of death, you may be in a coma, there may be some road collision. Still, just based on your devotion during your lifetime, you'll be promoted to the spiritual world. Two examples. First, Ajamil, all he chanted was Narayan. But actually, he attained Mriyamana, Krishna Nam, Ajamil Apyaja Dharma. He attained Vaikuntha, Ajamil. And I think all of you here are more serious than Ajamil. So that immediately means your destination is very high. Second point, and this is, yesterday was the disappearance of a godbrother, Jayananda Prabhu. So Jayananda Prabhu joined in San Francisco in 1967, and he was a taxi driver. Now most of Prabhupada's disciples came from a somewhat dubious hippie type background. You know what is hippies? But he was a taxi driver, and apparently he studied mechanical engineering at university, but he preferred to drive a taxi. So he was always in the background. He never pushed himself. And he used to drive Prabhupada also from the airport. And then he gave Prabhupada a donation, $5,000, which was a lot of money in those days. And then he had leukemia disease. So after 10 years, he left his body. 10 years he was practicing. And many of you have been practicing for 20 years, or 30 years, or 40 years. He practiced just for 10 years. But he was very serious, and when he passed away, Prabhupada congratulated him and said, I feel great pride in having a disciple like you. So Prabhupada was eulogizing him. I feel great pride in having such a wonderful disciple. And then he said, Krishna blessed you. Now why he blessed him? Because his body was diseased and Krishna took him away. So he didn't have to suffer. So the blessing was that he left his body. Sometimes our family members die from disease, but Prabhupada is saying it was actually a blessing. Why stay in a diseased body? So he blessed him. So Prabhupada said, Lord Krishna has blessed you, Jayananda, because your body was diseased and he took you away. And then he said, you've returned to Vaikuntha, you've returned to Krishna Loka. There's a few letters, 2 or 3. So after 10 years, Vaikuntha or Krishna Loka. And then Prabhupada said, we should include his name on our Vaishnava calendar, which we do. And then he said also, if possible, you put his picture on the Rath Yatra cart. So, in certain regards, Prabhupada had affection for all of his disciples and grand disciples and followers. But he was showing it particularly to Jayananda Prabhu. Of course, Jayananda Prabhu was special, but we should understand that affection to everyone, to all of his followers. But obviously we can't put the name of every disciple of Prabhupada and grand disciple who passes away on the Vaishnava calendar. It's just going to be too many names. But Prabhupada asked his name, so we have it. So it was yesterday, Tuesday, I think, Jayananda Prabhu, yeah. So if Jayananda Prabhu got such a high result, then we can also get a high result. If Ajahn, just by chanting Narayana, accidentally chanting, by the way, and we are chanting on purpose, with Shraddha, with faith, then what result will we get? I think it's more than Ajahn. Personally, I think it's more than Ajahn. So just carry on chanting the name of God. Have faith in the holy name, and then you'll be transported to the spiritual world, and you may not even know how it happens. Anyone else? Haribo, Haribo. Thank you, God.
How are you?
All right. This is Prabhupada Prabhu's mother.
Yes.
And of course, Prabhupada is the president. New Jagat for it. By his inspiration and hard work, there's very beautiful temples manifest. So, of course, she's also Vaishnava.
Thank you.
Haribo, Haribo. Anyone else like to ask? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So, Lord Nrisimha has different modes. Name a few: Jwala, Yoga, Ugra. So, which mode does Sri Prahlada Maharaj worships Lord Nrisimha as his
Which mood? I think you'd have to ask Prahlad. And when you've asked him and he's given an answer, you can email me. I've understood you can worship as Lakshmi Nrisimha, where Nrsimhadev is very subdued, very peaceful, Lakshmi Nrsimha. And then the opposite is Ugra. He's extremely angry, and he's tearing Hiranyakashipu to pieces. And then you've got in between, where Prahlada is sitting on his lap. So those three moods at least. But one may go from one mood to another, as Lord Chaitanya. He suddenly expressed the mood of Nrsimhadev and was transcendently angry. So I'll give you my email number. You got a question. Phoenix Maharaj, he doesn't know it, but he's going to save everyone in Phoenix.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, how did Lord Nrsimhadev know if Prahlada Maharaj is a devotee?
How did Lord Nrsimhadev know that Prahlad is a devotee? Because God, He knows everything. Now you don't. Right? Therefore you have to go to school. But the Lord, Abhigya Sarat, fully independent, knows past, present, and future. So that's the difference between us and God. So thank you for that question, Maharaj. And I think we'll have to award you this flower garland, because you're going to save everyone on the North Coast and South Africa, and perhaps the whole of Africa. All right, finished.
Are there any more questions, Maharaj? Thank you, Maharaj. I want to appreciate that little bit of knowledge about Srila Prabhupada bringing the chanting of the Nrisimha prayers to us. I think it's a good